I've had Scars by Papa Roach in my head this whole week, and that's like a problem because that's not even the song that we've been making fun of.
This song is even worse.
What's good, man? It's your boy Juicy J, man. Shout out to Virtual Homework Podcast.
Hey guys.
Hi, everyone.
Headstrong to take you on.
I'm trapped in the closet.
And
Wait,
trapped
that sounds,
in the closet.
That sounded bad. It's like, no, I'm not in the closet.
How are you doing as an individual, as a human being,
I have
on this
a
Sunday
headache.
night? That's not good. Why do you have a headache?
I took an aspirin. I'm feeling a little bit better, though. I've been drinking some water. I got some Gatorade. I was, like, super feeding for some Gatorade randomly, so I got a thing of Gatorade.
Listen to a little too much Trapt? Get a little too headstrong, a little too much headache?
Dude, I was headbanging so hard before this podcast that my head started just hurting. I got a little headstrong.
Yeah, when I listen to Headstrong by Trapt specifically, not any other song named Headstrong, I start banging my head at like 270 degrees, so I'm going back 90-degree angle, and then like I will put my head towards my knees, and I'll do that rapidly. 270-degree movement per second, and it really
That
is
sounds
bad.
nauseating.
It's nauseating, and like it's destroying my spine. I've been told so many times by my peers, doctors, to stop doing this.
So, memes aside, I guess you can kind of understand. So we kind of went off on a tangent last week about like the band Trapt and how they like fucked up over Twitter. So
they didn't fuck up. It was one guy who fucked up, who's no longer in the band.
Real bad. So Sam had the wonderful idea to play Trapt the game, which has nothing to do with the band.
I'm pretty sure it was released after like Trapt Headstrong was 2005. Trapt the game was made way after Headstrong was a popular song,
which was like 2001 or some shit, right?
Yeah. So Trapt is actually like the fourth game in the Deception series.
I was looking into this, and it looks like this is like a completely different like offshoot of like the normal gameplay in the Trapt, I guess the Deception series.
Which basically is a series where you are playing as anime girl. Main character was one boob out girl because she was wearing the worst.
her tit was hanging out like fully, like the entire game. I'm just like, what the fuck? Can we talk about how awful this game looks though? Like, I guess we're like doing like obviously we're playing emulated on games we dumped the ROM on. But like we're super.
We would never do
upsizing.
anything illegal. What the fuck are you talking about?
Well, no, we dumped our own ROM, so we can do that legally.
Okay, yeah.
We're
not
both
dumping the internet's ROM.
No, we both own the game. But we like obviously are upscaling the graphics in the emulator, so it looks significantly better. But it's like this game looks like shit, even with like upscaled graphics. Like everything is like dark. Like the textures are so boring. Like
so this was like an era, like 2005 to like 2008 was like the perfect era of like dark brooding, but like literally so boring I want to die, like sort of like style. This reminds me a lot of the Underworld style of game, like, or not really game, but like the Underworld movies where you're like I don't want to say
dark.
Angsty vampire because Angsty vampire is totally Twilight, but maybe that's another good example.
That's
but
like angsty, like dark, not like teenager vampire.
Yeah, exactly. Like the world is dark for no reason, and it's almost so predictably dark it's boring. This is
like eerily reminiscent of like early PlayStation 2 games. Like if you ever played the game The Bouncer, where it just goes from like scene to scene with no really there's a story, but it's just like so detached from itself. It's like impossible to like stay along with. Let's actually talk about what the fuck this game is though for a second.
Yeah, so Trapt is, as we said before, the like third or fourth game in the Deception series. It's for the PS2. It's a game where you are a princess and there was an assassination on your father, who is the king, in a kingdom where the actual... I'm talking like a fucking robot. There's a kingdom where basically the king was assassinated and he was not that popular of a king to begin with, so the assassination was not necessarily surprising, but...
You were blamed for it.
Yeah, you were blamed for it because the wife of the king is a crazy bitch. That's all we're going to say. And basically, you have the power of the fiend. You have the ability to like create traps, and that's why the game is called Trapt. even though it's called Deception 2
So
Rise
what
of the Bionicle.
What kind of game is this? Is it an
I
RPG?
don't know.
Is this like...
It's very unique in its genre.
we will say it is adventurous and it is different, but I don't even know what kind of this. It's not really an RPG.
Oh, it's definitely an RPG. Like if any, like it's one of the least free games you could do. Like each level, like you basically could go into a room. I guess you have free roam of the entire mansion, especially if you unlock certain rooms.
Yeah,
but
I didn't figure that out until I was like 10 chapters in that I could go to other rooms.
Yeah, you don't really need to. This game is really easy for the most part. You don't have to run away at all until like the later part of this game. But we'll actually get into like how far we've gotten at this game first of all. But it's a very linear progression. Each level you basically set up traps, and then the enemies that come after you can't hit them directly. You have to use these traps. And you have a lot of leeway in what traps you could do. You could either use a ground trap like a bear trap or like a bomb on the ground. You could use a ceiling trap like a pendulum or like a boulder that falls Indiana Jones style.
I literally did every single level like in like under 2 minutes with like the same 3 traps.
Yep, I was going to get into that in a second, but we also have to talk about wall traps. Like you could have stuff coming out of the wall, or you could actually just use a magnet, because that's the most overpowered item in the game.
The magnet is so good. That's all I use.
Yeah. I don't know about you, but I beat this game.
I got to like mission 12, and then I'm like, I'm done with Trapt.
All right, that's perfectly fair. I will say, despite all the praise we've given this game, it is not very good.
No, I can appreciate like what they were going for, and it is somewhat interesting, and it's kind of like you get to do some like combos and stuff like that. But once you start looking into it, it's like the NPCs have like the worst AI ever. There's really not much difficulty. Like there's not difficulties. There's just like stupid bullshit randomly. Like the boss fights are just like stupid because they'll just like chain you over and over, and you're like, oh, okay.
This game has the worst camera I've ever used in a video game ever.
Yes. Oh my god, the camera is fucking garbage. Like, it is so bad. The levels are so uninspired and boring. Like, there's all these traps in each of the levels, but it's like I never use like the environment ones. I literally just use, like we were just talking about the different traps. I just use the ball from the ceiling and
magnet fireball, the spring trap.
Yeah. That's all. I use that magnetic wall. I use the floor blasting because if they missed it, I would just use that right next to it, and that would set them on fire, and they would just run away or like run into the other trap.
Yeah. So we mentioned basically this game, you are blamed for the king's murder, and people are coming after you, basically trying to kill you, but you have special powers that allow you to kill everyone, literally everyone. Like this entire game is just like wave after wave. It's like the Zap Brannigan meme where I sent wave after wave of my own men against them. It's like, 30 people have been killed by this one person, and guess we should send like 8 more. And it's like, they all died. Guess we should send like 8 more. You kill them so easily with the same combination. Basically, they come at you in a very linear fashion. There are some enemies with ranged items, such as bows, which have a very predictable pattern.
Would you just stand around you just make your trap around a corner and just stand around the corner, and they just run right into it every single time?
Yeah, but you essentially want these guys to go into, or guys or gals, to go into the trap, and it's very easy to get them into the trap. And when you start out with a magnetic trap, which is one of the most overpowered items in the game, you immobilize them, and then if you have a floor trap directly under where the magnet is, you could use that. In my case, I used the spring trap to make them go into a wall which had a boulder, and then basically one shot killed them every single time.
Yeah.
It was the most repetitive gameplay on the planet.
I think a good way to explain this, like, let me explain like how the average level starts. Like, you start in the middle of a level with 2 guys that say horrible English text at you, say like, "Oh, I am here to kill you. You better run away," like some shit. So then you press circle, you select which traps you want, you put them in the same spot every time, and then you stand next. The gameplay consists of you standing next to it and watching the enemies like run back and forth trying to get to you because their pathing is so fucking terrible that they don't know what they're doing, and they run into it. You do your little trap cycle, they die, and if they don't, then you just run across your trap and they turn around and run into it. It's like I said, the idea is really interesting, but the execution is terrible. And there's usually waves of enemies, so it's like you kill like the first 2, and then you have to wait like 30 seconds, 40 seconds. You just hear them like running from like a different room, and you're just standing there like, okay. And then they open the door and like, haha, I am here to avenge or some shit like that, and then you just do the same exact thing.
Yeah, Dana's definitely right in that it's a lot of like decent ideas with terrible execution. The reason why a lot of the terrible execution is in place is I think programming deficiency from the team. I don't want to like just be like, game designers, get with it. You should have programmed this, but like I can't really think of any other explanations. Especially the camera, I feel like they had some technical difficulties with their engine. When you kill enemies, usually there's like 8 enemies per level, especially in the later levels, and you can only have 2 on screen at once. When an enemy comes in, they'll have an intro of sorts where they say some stupid stuff, as Dana was saying. They won't have that intro until you're in the same room with them, and a lot of the times the enemies spawn like 4 rooms away. I think the concept was that you were going to be going from room to room to set up traps and run away from certain types of enemies, but it's really not necessary. Like, the fact is, like, a lot of games have certain items that are like not optimized, so you end up not using them when you actually understand how the items work. But this game has a very small learning curve, and that like you very quickly realize that the magnet is ridiculous, and so is like the falling ball. Good. So like level 3 out of 15, there's 15 levels, you got to level 12. You actually got pretty close, but they actually get really kind of bullshit towards the end, so I'm not surprised you didn't beat it. It took me way too long to beat it, and I was actually frustrated. You essentially learn the end game strategy on like level 3, and then you just do that in the first room you could see every single time. There are certain scenarios when there were like some bullshit mage fire my weapon across the room and impossible to dodge scenarios where I actually had to run from room to room to either activate weird specific traps or
I never had any of those issues because I would just hide behind a wall. Like there'd be like a set of stairs, and I would set it at like the bottom of the stairs and just hide behind a wall, so they'd like have to path around it.
I'm specifically talking like level 14 here. There was some
I didn't get there.
But like, those scenarios were actually pretty fun. I enjoyed that when the game worked the way they intended, but like the vast majority of the game, like you didn't have to do shit. And like you basically had the option to create new traps with the monetary system called Whorl. There was 2 monetary systems, Whorl and then like this experience system that didn't mean anything. Apparently if you played the game multiple times, it would unlock certain items when you got to a certain point, but I'm not playing this game ever again after this.
Did you try any of the side stories?
I did every single side story for every single mission.
Really? Oh wow. So what do they do?
They do nothing. They literally do nothing. I was kind of disappointed in that fact. I'll get into that in a bit when I talk about like what the end game is for this, but so much of this game is unnecessary, I would say. Like if you boil it down to what works, it's a very specific strategy.
It's like 2-minute battles between like 4 minutes of like the worst cutscene you've ever heard in your life of just like role-playing dribble that you just do not care about. It's like what's the funniest part about the story is like conveniently before every like battle starts, like, all right, princess, stay here, I'm gonna run ahead, and then it's like, oh no, I must fight by myself, and it's just like over and over and over and over and over. It's just like, okay.
The funniest thing about this game, I'm not sure how much you went into it because like this game doesn't require it, but before every single mission, because I was trying to get the most of this game, was that every single character that you kill has like a relatively detailed backstory.
Really?
Did you go into these?
I went to like the character info. It was like you can see like who you killed, but it didn't give me any info on them.
It didn't say like their background. I'm there. So
no.
Each individual character.
Maybe I was looking at a different screen.
Oh, you were looking at who you already killed.
Oh, okay.
So during every mission, if you go to like mission information, there's like your player profile and then there's the character profile, and I'm really sad you missed this because like they give so much like unnecessary information, but like it makes you sympathetic to the characters and it makes you feel bad when you kill them in 30 seconds. So like it'd be like it's like, oh, Ariana was a blacksmith who married into a neighboring family even though she didn't agree with the neighboring family's religious choices. She hopes to one day use her blacksmithing money to go back to school to become a cooking genius. And it's like, oh, this means nothing. I'm going to kill them just like I killed the last 30 characters indiscriminately.
I'm going to drop a flaming boulder on them like violently.
But then like there's also like this weird narrative that women are terrible, and like there's part of this that like kind of is expected. Like I feel like this entire development team was men, because every single one of these women,
it has to
like
be.
yeah, every single one of these women is like this weirdly skimpy outfit, and also these women are like not written with like personality. No one's written with the personality, but like the game seems weirdly misogynistic at the surface. But then you go into these background characters, and it's like, Arthur has not been lucky with women, even though he's tried very hard. He's chosen this opportunity to
I was actually gonna make a point on that. One of the a couple of the enemies, when they die, they like say something, and one of them was like, "I was never lucky with the ladies." Then they die,
and then they all have the same exact death animation, and it's actually kind of hilarious when you kill like the 70th person, and like a weird unnatural puddle of blood goes behind them. Yeah, like. There's both the misogynistic side, where you have a character that literally says, I think it's like mission 12 or 13, probably right where you ended, his intro animation just says, I hate women. And then he like comes at you and like tries to kill you. It's like, oh no, this guy is, at least he's honest with himself.
Oh, man.
Yeah, there's...
I really did have a little bit of fun with this game, I feel. Like, it's a bad game. There's no reason for anyone to play it. Because, like, where I got to, it did not take very long to get to the point where I got to. You know, I think I played, like, maybe 2.5 hours of it, and then I was like, I am kind of done with this game. But, I mean, I had a little bit of fun. It was like a stupid thing.
I played about 5 hours. 3 hours was, like, the first, like, 13-ish levels, and, like, the last 2 levels I spent, like, 2 hours, way too much time on. But, yeah. So... this is the quintessential, I don't want to say shovelware, because shovelware has an implication that like the game is so unbelievably terrible that you should never play it. This is like 90% of later PS2 titles where it's like just a mediocre game produced for a market that is extremely large. Like there's so many games for the PS2 library that are just forgotten in time. Like I had no idea there was a game named Trapt. I would say this is the best like expectation versus reality thing that we've ever done, if I'm being honest.
Well, like your expectations with this were like zero?
The expectation is I literally picked this game because its name is Trapt, because the guy made Headstrong said that 15-year-olds should have sex with 25-year-olds. Like that is the context for picking this game. And it was enjoyable at parts. So great. That's like a solid whatever. I enjoyed a little bit of this game out of 10, you know?
I think that the concept of the trap system is kind of cool. I think it could have been done a lot better. I imagine the team for this is unbelievably small. I would actually like to look it up to see like what kind of team they had on this. Yeah, but you know, this could be like Team Q, you know, like they're, you know, the lowest, like they had like the 3 janitors like make this game, you know, like.
I mean, it's weird, though, because, like, the series is kind of still ongoing. I don't know if there's going to be one for the PS5, but, like, the last game to be released for Deception was Deception 4, which was released in 2015. So, like, they're still kind of making it.
Isn't this Deception 4?
This is Deception 2, sorry. I think I might have said Deception 3.
See, I kind of swore I read that this was the 4th game in the series.
So they made Deception 1, 2, and 3, and then they ported Trapt, which is like Deception 2. So there was a game that was made before they ported the previous version to PS2.
This game, Deception 4, looks exactly the same.
No, so I looked into Deception 1, and the game is exactly, like, the plot is almost the same, except with, like, some weird race of, like, humanoid-type creature. Like, they have, like, their own version of the Fiend, which allows you to make certain magical items. But, yeah, this is definitely a video game, and we played it. The enjoyment out of this game came from the details.
I would be curious to play Deception 4 now that I look at it.
Is that your game for this week? I have to buy a PS4?
I hate to say it looks identical to this, but like with better graphics, and it has like 90% user reviews on it. So it's like...
probably because of your art. Like, every single series, no matter how weird it is going to have diehard fans. Like, I was getting information on this game from the fucking, like, Trapt wiki, and I'm like, why does this series have a wiki? Is this really worthy of a whole wiki? This series, at the end of the day, it's probably making a couple people happy, but like there are so many things that like effort would be rather put into. I can't really talk, but I was just very surprised that not only were there multiple guides for this game, but there's a full-blown wiki on the Trapt universe. Sorry, the Deception universe.
I guess people really like this game. Like, it seems like extremely mediocre to me, but
The thing is, like the fifth or sixth game we played, Super Magnetic Neo, you like shat on that like as a Crash Bandicoot clone the entire time, but like that was like literally one of my favorite games as a kid. And, like I grew up loving that game. Like I feel like this is one of those games where it's like
probably if you played it.
If you played it as a kid, like you probably A, had a crush on Allura or whatever her name was, and then like B,
I
you
just
fucking
want to
love
say,
Trapt.
their Wikipedia page is called the Trappedia.
Yeah, that's so amazing. I definitely think the details is what makes this game fun, which I'm a little sad you didn't really go into like the details of these characters. Like,
yeah.
Sometimes it like made me feel bad. Like there were characters like, I don't want to kill you, but I'm being forced to by my boss, and then like kill them. It was like, I regret my decision, and I was like, oh no.
So I guess it puts more context to like the random ass shit they said there's horrible translations in this game, by the way.
Yeah,
like
okay. This game was definitely not localized well. This is like we are gonna make a lot of money off the American market because we have anime women with one boob straight up out.
How well did this game sell? Let's see what the reception is.
I mean, this game has like 6 out of 10s, and I think that's really fair. I think that's like the most fair.
But it says
rating I've ever seen.
97% of players liked this game. It says
no. You go on any site where you may be able to illegally download a video game. It's like, this game's rated a 4.9 out of 5. This game's rated a 5 out of 5 because the only people who are downloading it are people who have an interest in playing it.
Yeah,
and most of those people are...
I guess like random ass people aren't playing it and stuff like that. We got to bring Trapt back. Do you know there's no speedrunning section for
We
Trapt
gotta bring Trapt back. Word said.
There's nothing on speedrun.com for this. Like,
there's a lot of games that aren't on speedrun.com, honestly, especially the PS1 and PS2. There are just so many unknown games or so many obscure games that like it's hard to get a community, like even a 1 or 2 person community. Because there's like so many other obscure games they probably played because their parents had weird taste.
Yeah, so this is a spin-off of the original series, apparently.
Yeah. The thing about this game and like me beating this game is that I didn't actually beat this game. The game has 15 levels, and while I beat the game and got a certain ending, it's one of those games that has like 7 endings.
Really? How do you get the better endings?
I think it has 4 endings, and one of them you could get like super early. Like, did you get to the part where you're able to run away with that one guy?
Yeah. I didn't. I just stayed instead.
Yeah. There are a couple areas where you actually have choice, and most of the time it doesn't matter. But one of the times you're able to get a bad ending there if you choose to run away, because I think you'll have to fight the prince that like told you like you have the opportunity to run away, and then that's a bad ending. But there's 3 main endings in this game, and I'm sorry for all the Trapt fans. I'm going to spoil a little bit of Trapt. I personally got an ending where like I kill... So the way that this game works, it's like one of those really generic, like every single person eventually betrays you. Oh, that prince that you thought was nice, he betrays you. Oh, this part of the kingdom that like, oh, they couldn't possibly betray you. They betray you.
They betray you.
Like this maid who's with you the entire time, guess what? She betrays you because her family was... yeah, this maid who's your best friend, apparently your parents were
Rachel. She was the homegirl.
Rachel fights you, but basically you could either choose to fight Rachel. That's actually the correct ending, because then eventually you will have to fight the fiend and then you'll get the good ending. But like there's basically multiple endings, but once you get one ending you go back to the beginning. This game is meant to be played on multiple playthroughs, and I'm just kind of like, fuck that.
So you didn't get the good ending?
No, but I looked them up because like I was curious. Like the thing is, I commend them for that, and you might think like that's kind of annoying, but when you're buying a game, especially in like 2005 for the PS2, you want like longevity of the game. If you are willing to beat the game, that generally means you like the game enough that you kind of want to like maybe not continue.
I kind of wonder if you got. I kind of wonder if you got really good at this game. It'd be really fun to like actually use different strategies to like set up with like some of the environmental traps with some of the rooms. Like I bet you could do some really fun and cool and interesting stuff, like if you were interested in that. Like obviously we have to like power through this game for like to talk about it for the podcast, but I guess if you like had like a super casual playthrough in 2005, you probably spend a lot more time like setting up and doing cool things.
Well, I'm just thinking like someone that's like limited in like the like, because the thing is like now we live in a society
where this
is
the only game you have.
Yeah, it's like one of those things like you're asking your parents to buy you games to buy you Trapt. Like this is one of those games where I think you actually could make use of your time, especially the fact that this game requires multiple playthroughs. So like if you're enjoying it a little bit, if you're vibing with Trapt, I could see like playing the game multiple times to get all the endings. And the thing is, your save file, it'll keep the whirl and whatever the other currency is, which is good because then you actually keep the traps. You get the better traps. Like if you notice, like you didn't have enough money to like buy everything, you'll have on subsequent playthroughs, you'll be able to buy anything, and then you'll also be able to unlock special items. Like you unlock certain, like you could play as Rachel or characters from the other games if you unlock a certain amount of currency. So it rewards people doing multiple playthroughs, which is cool. You don't actually see that in a lot of games.
This just seems like a very much so a game that it's meant to, you're supposed to spend time like having fun with it versus just trying to power through it.
Yeah, I agree with that too, but like it's kind of like I found a formula and I was just curious where this game was going, so I just did. And I mean, the thing is, I had actual fun at times. I like, especially towards the end, I died a couple times and was frustrated, but like wanted to. You know that feeling when you're like frustrated, but you want to beat it.
I like how like we started this kind of like talk where like this game is so mediocre, and now we're like, well, you know what? I actually had fun. Like I can see like the good.
The thing is, like something's allowed to be mediocre and still have fun at moments. Like I think at best this game is a 7 out of 10, but mostly it lands in the 5 out of 10 range.
Yeah, I think it's like hard mediocre. But,
okay, 4 out of 10. I'm not gonna say 5 out of 10, but.
I could say 5 out of 10, man.
Well,
like,
okay, I'm saying overall maybe, but I'm saying most of this game is a 4 out of 10, but then sometimes you have those 7 out of 10s, like, you know what, I'm having fun moments.
Yeah, definitely. It's still not a you should play it type game, but, I mean, if you're a fan of Trapt, you probably won't care about this game, because then you probably are, well... I mean, you made the topic of this game being weirdly misogynistic, so if you are a Trapt fan, you probably would enjoy this.
Yeah, if you are a fan of the band Trapt, well, okay, not anymore, because Trapt kicked out their misogynistic, terrible lead singer, like, as of last week. They didn't even tell him. They're just like, they announced on Tumblr of all places, probably because they're still banned on Twitter, even though they don't have the terrible frontman.
I sent you that link. I think that website was Parler, which is also really bad.
Oh, God. Well, sorry about that. Sorry that Dana is sending ad revenue to terrible people, but yeah, Trapt kicked out their lead singer and didn't tell them. They just posted on social media, and like he responded like, "You guys are too scared to tell me to my face that I'm out of the band.
You guys
nothing
can't without
do
me.
shit.
Trapt
is nothing without me." It's like Trapt is nothing. You could have stopped there, but yeah, they're still banned on Twitter. Anyway,
this kind of it took me off guard. It took me off guard as far as what my thoughts on it, I guess.
Yeah, I was expecting nothing, and I got like a tiny bit of something.
I think that's a better way to go into games than like expecting something. Like I should like look at more games like that and just think it's going to be like the worst, because then I think we'll have better, I guess, talks about it maybe, instead of just being like, this game sucks, poopy butts.
Like I really hate to say it, but I had a more enjoyable experience playing this than Advance Wars.
Yeah, that's oh my God.
It's true.
Like no one, like literally everyone's turning off the podcast after saying that. Oh my God.
It's the thing is, video games now are we live in such a different place than back in the day. Like Advance Wars is by far the better game, but we live in an attention economy where there's so much shit. And it's like, if I could just like look at this game and laugh, I'm enjoying it more than like trying to take Advance Wars seriously.
Yeah. Like we laughed at like the stupidity of this, and that made us enjoy it.
Like if
more.
I had to pay full price for a PS2 game for this,
I wonder, do you think this was in the bargain bin at some point?
Of course. It was like 3 weeks after it was released. Like I'm looking at the cover art for Trapt, and I could see this in a Walmart bargain bin, like easily. Like no big deal, you know?
I want that. I would love a Trapt poster.
For the game?
Dude, the R is backwards. Like that's like design is my passion type shit.
I could totally, like, you may or may not have an anime poster in your room. An anime blanket. Want to know something like actual real talk? This game inspired me with its multiple endings to go back to Titanic. I beat Titanic.
Did you really?
Yeah, I beat Titanic
no, you're kidding
ago.
me. Like really?
Yeah, no, I was way closer than I thought. Like I literally had like
What'd you think?
20 minutes of the game left. So it's another similar thing where I got one ending and I decided that I didn't feel like going back and doing like 9 endings. So I did not get the perfect ending. So right before I stopped, I was at the area before you had to climb the smokestack, and then you get that cutscene. Yeah, you might know that I was actually pretty close to the end, but
yeah.
I thought the game was pretty fun. I'm glad I got closure. Like, it was one of those things I was thinking about, like, when am I going to come back to this? Like, I'm actually pretty motivated and I have a lot of free time. I might actually go back and try to beat some of these games.
Crazy how surprisingly entertaining some of those, like, super old PC games are. Like,
There are so many games that are great that like just don't see the light of day.
But yeah, like who would ever think of that game specifically?
At least it's on Steam, but it's just terribly optimized on Steam.
Yeah,
it's
it's awful. But I'm actually glad you enjoyed it a little bit because that's like I want to say it's like a favorite game of mine, but it's like very nostalgic. It's like there's some sort of like creepiness behind it almost.
Yep, I was satisfied with the ending. I was satisfied. It's one of those things where you could have totally had a situation where it's like, oh, why did I even come back to this? This was a waste of my time. But I didn't think it was a waste of my time. I got closure, and I enjoyed it.
So what are you gonna jump into next?
It's a good question. If we're being honest, like, it's either Mother 3 or Death Stranding. I'm really scared to go back to Death Stranding because, like, I know I have another 20 hours of that game.
That, and it's like, what was I doing?
No, I remember what I was doing.
I can't go back to games. Like, if I beat that game. Like, I beat the shit out of that game. I spent like 60 hours on that game. If I went back to it right now, I would have no idea how to play it.
Well, that's kind of different though, because like you close the book, you finish the story.
Yeah, I should go back to Mother 3 too. I just don't have time for it. I like full-time MMO.
Maybe if it got on the Switch or something, so you could blow off work and just play that instead.
I can't now. Like, holiday time is
at
too
Miyamoto, please.
Busy bee.
Please add Mother 3 to the Switch. He'll listen to me.
I almost considered like jailbreaking my Switch just for like that kind of stuff, but I like having like a legit system.
Yeah, I haven't looked into that process. It's probably not as hard as I thought, but I'm like you. I have no qualms with my Switch. It plays Mario and Sonic when I want it to, and that's all I need.
Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games. So Sam, what else do you got for us this week?
Well, the first thing I want to do is apologize, both for Dana and for me, because we're both...
No, I ain't apologizing for shit. No, fuck you, everybody listening. I ain't apologizing.
Well, the first thing, I'm going to apologize for Dana because he's a terrible spreader of misinformation, talking about how WoW was the highest selling game. Even though that's true, it was the highest selling game up until we like recorded the podcast and Cyberpunk blew it out of the water.
Yeah, Cyberpunk is its own can of worms. It's actually hysterical seeing people post on social media like all the issues with it. One of the major ones that I saw was that, what was it? If you were like crafting items and your save file got over 8 megabytes, it corrupted your game and you couldn't do anything about it. And when CD Projekt Red was asked about it, they're like, "Sorry, can't do anything. You're fucked. Kill yourself."
I doubt they said kill yourself. That sounds like it. Okay, yeah, they clarified in a video game. This sounds much more like CD Projekt Red's, their social media team. No, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, yeah, of course, that's a terrible bug. That like if you craft too many items, your file corrupts. But that's like the top of the pile. We got the meat of the pile here. Cyberpunk removing the PS4 version of the game from the fucking marketplace. You can still buy the physical copy of the game. So if you wanted to go to Best Buy and get Cyberpunk for the PS4, you can. But
they even admitted though, like this game was not meant to be played on older systems. Like it's just not made for it. They just had to put it out. They really didn't have a choice. Like these games are not meant to run on bad hardware.
Yeah, like I don't want to copy Mega 64 too much. I know we already did with our theme song, which we are not doing anymore.
Theme song.
What's good, man? It's your boy Juicy J, man.
Okay, fine. I'll play it in that instance. I gotta. But that's the second time tonight the theme song's played. We're no longer saying theme song because we copied the Mega 64 podcast
Just
too much.
play it for like 2 seconds.
Yeah, okay, I'll do that. That's good. Just a little bit of Juicy J. Yeah, like I agree with Derek from Mega 64, who I was listening to talk about this, and too many games are made for too many consoles now, and I feel like they just need to pick one and optimize it. Like as a software developer, I could totally see that. Like, it's not that like these things are too hard to optimize, but like each individual system you're trying to optimize it for
you have
is
like a million different things.
Well, no, it's a million different things, but like even if a system was so
completely
close,
different ecosystems.
Most of these games are built off certain engines that are they're optimized to work on multiple different consoles. But even if that's the case, like hypothetically, even if it's easy to port a game from one system to another, that still takes one person's like work. and that one person could be doing a lot of optimization on the game itself. So like when you have like 8 different consoles and you have small teams on each one of these localization projects, you're basically taking like a large subsection of your team and you're putting it on a localization for people who will be appreciative, but not necessarily appreciative enough that like if the game doesn't work great overall, like it's just not worth it. I feel like you need games like Death Stranding that we talked about. We both loved it. I understand that like people find the game controversial, like from a story perspective, from a gameplay perspective, but not many people are talking about Death Stranding from like a this game doesn't work perspective, you know?
No, it works flawlessly in almost all situations. Like, obviously, you're gonna have like the one-off glitch that happens every once in a while, but like Cyberpunk isn't a one-off glitch. It's like almost everyone has a glitch that's somewhat different. Like, for example, my coworker was telling me today, he's like, oh, let me first off say, most people, when the game is working, find it to be a fantastic game. One of the best games they've ever played. Everyone says it's fucking so much fun when it works. Like, my coworker is telling me, though, he's like, yeah, I have this audio glitch that makes it crackle, every second, and it's so annoying. It's to the point where I can't even play it. But when I do play it, it's so much fun. There's, like, glitches where people are, like, driving, and then suddenly the game crashes, and then when they turn it back on, they're 1,000 feet in the air, flying up. Like, there's no rhyme or reason to this game. Just wasn't done.
The thing is, when people mention like autosave death loops, like that happened so much back in the day. Like that's not like something super rare. Like that literally happened in Halo 3 for me, and like it's happened to other people in Halo 3 where like I drove a Banshee off a cliff and that was the autosave point. Like that's not like super rare. What I'm saying, I'm not like trying to give them the benefit of the doubt, but like I feel like
this wasn't an auto. This isn't an autosave glitch. This is literally you're riding your motorcycle through the town, and then your game just crashes randomly, and then when it reloads, you're 10,000 feet in the air flying upwards to infinity.
They had to know, right? They had to know. Like someone had to play the game on PS4, right?
Absolutely. And this is, mind you, this is not just the PS4 we're talking about that has issues. This is PC, this is PS5, this is, Xbox, whatever, because there's like 8 different versions of Xbox nowadays. But it really just sours any goodwill that CD Projekt Red, which I at the same time, I'm not blaming them. I'm sure they were
I'm totally blaming them.
They were probably on impossible deadlines. I imagine whoever was above them was like, I don't care, it has to get released and stuff like that. It's just surprising being that they held it back. Because, for example, another company that held things back that people have good things to say about, Blizzard and World of Warcraft. They're number 1 in the world for releasing buggy shit that they spend the next 2 years fucking fixing. They held back Shadowlands release, and now it's considered one of the better expansions in a long fucking time.
Okay, I mean, there's definitely examples, but 90% of the things that, like, are delayed for more than 5 years turn out to be disappointing on release. And, like, yeah, the part of that is genuine overhype. Like, a lot of people were definitely overhyping Cyberpunk 2077.
Cyberpunk, like I said, everyone thinks Cyberpunk is a good game. Like, if you without all the issues, like, it's a fantastic experience. People are having a lot of fun with. Do you think if they held it back to, let's say, like, February?
No, I think one of the reasons why holding it back was so bad on their end was just due to the fact that, like, the game was made in 2013, right? I don't know the timeline of the PS4, but the PS4 had to be pretty young when the game was announced. So they were probably designing for end of life PS3 and beginning of PS4. When you're going across that many consoles, you are like over and over again, like similar to Fez. If you remember the interview from Indie Game the Movie with Fez, he's like, yeah, I started this game and I had a certain pixel art and then I improved it, but then I had to redo everything because it like didn't meet my current standards.
I imagine that's what happened with this, because like the technology changed and spaghetti code and whatever was just too like impossible. You'd have to like rewrite the whole game, which would probably take like multiple years.
Yeah, and
you had
like
years.
A situation like, if you remember, Breath of the Wild was supposed to be like a flagship game for the Wii U, and then like when the Wii U was eventually end of life and like the Switch version of Breath of the Wild was announced to be released at the same time as the Wii U, a lot of the people who backed the Wii U were actually like, and if I'm being honest, like justifiably pissed at the game that they were considering like getting a Wii U 4 in many cases that was delayed like multiple years. Like it was also released on the Switch, so why did I get a Wii U at all? But because they optimized the game for the Switch, it ended up being one of the best games of all time. Like even if it was for the Wii U and it was considered one of the best games of all time, like it would have been played by a small amount of people. I think they made a good decision in that case by like really emphasizing it working on the Switch as a new console. This literally isn't for PS5. I feel like with the timeline, they should have made it a PS5 launch and been like, I'm sorry, PS4 users. If you've like had the PS4 for so long, you've been following the PS4, like you probably are going to get a PS5 eventually. You're going to be able to play our game. I'm sorry.
This should have been PS5 launch, make the PS4 version come out in like summer.
Or just never have a PS4 version because the PS4 is literally like old hardware that's going to get deprecated very soon.
Yep.
I don't have sympathy for that. I feel bad though in that like no company could have a yellow sorry ever again.
No, there's like so many memes with it.
There's so many memes, like
that.
there's fucking Tropicana, who like people thought were memeing when they actually gave a legitimate public apology for like their ad campaign, but they did you see that image I shared with you of the Tropicana tweet?
Let me pull it up.
Scroll up to December 19th after the Ugly Orchard.
Oh my god.
Yeah, like Tropicana had a legitimate apology because they had an ad campaign where they said like, you've been working hard, get a mimosa while you're raising your kids, like to moms, because like, you know, orange juice goes in mimosas.
Yeah.
And like they had to apologize because like groups that were like anti-alcoholism were like, you are promoting alcoholism by promoting mimosas. And like, sure, that's another issue. But like people weren't taking them seriously and people legitimately thought they were memeing because like their Tropicana branding looked very similar to CD Projekt Red's sorry apologies because it's just yellow because like Tropicana makes orange
no
juice.
One can do a yellow thing at all,
Yeah, so that's hilarious to me. I mean, if we were going to getting into the Tropicana drama, because that's very, very similar to what we normally talk about, I hate the concept of like wine being mommy juice.
Yeah, it's like I work in a mall, so it's like I have mimes that say like, "Don't talk to me until I had my wine." Like these women come in with like sweatshirts to say like I am a wine mom. And it's like then they're wearing like a mask that says like give me wine, like or give me death or something like that.
Oh my god! So
and it's like they're like the bitchiest people ever.
You misspoke and you said I have mimes coming into my store when you totally meant moms. And I'm just like imagining like these people with like mime makeup, just like with mommy juice. And okay, I was imagining like them pulling an imaginary rope, and it was making me laugh so much.
I'm proud of you.
Yo, why are you sending me like weird political memes about like Biden appointing a bug to the cabinet? And like Garfield showing his like plump ass to John.
Those are good memes.
They're good memes, but why? Why do you harass me?
Because it's like the only time I look at memes is at like 4 a.m. when I'm laying in bed when I have work at 9.
I feel like not enough people, when they like see a post on the internet, take into context the time of the post. It's like the most important thing.
Yeah.
Almost as important as Twitch drama. Should we get into it? We're at that point. We're at that point.
Yeah.
We're
Let's do it.
hitting the end of the podcast, and we haven't talked about it yet.
We got to do it every time.
We got to do it every goddamn time. I mean, like, we talked enough about the Cyberpunk drama. Let's talk about the Twitch TOS drama a little bit.
The Twitch drama.
First of all, I mentioned before that Dana had to apologize for his misinformation campaign. There's a lot of misinformation going around. I know that there's been like articles on like Joe Rogan spreading misinformation. We're better than Joe Rogan because we've never been wrong, except for this one instance. This is the first time and probably only time we've ever been wrong.
How? What happened?
You said that WoW was the highest selling game, and that's not true.
Oh.
But yeah, this is never going to happen again. We're going to continue our 100% perfect streak of podcasting. So I personally have to apologize because I mentioned Twitch DMCA drama, and then like I went on a rant about like how my Reddit post got so many upvotes, and I never actually talked about what the Twitch DMCA news was. I'm like, oh, I love Twitch DMCA because it got me Reddit upvotes, and it's like I never explained why.
I'm like, what happened?
Yeah, and everyone's like, what? But basically what happened was, in this case, Senator Tillis released legislation that wanted to make DMCA, which is normally a pretty benign process. It's like, hey, you've been using our content without your permission. He wanted to make it so that when you use the content, like it was a felony. It's like, oh, you use that content without permission? That was actually a felony, and what you just did, we could actually put you in jail for that content. And sure, you might not necessarily go to jail every single time, but it's a much more serious offense than what you would normally would to see DMCA. That was insane. One of the reasons why it was so brazenly corrupt was due to the fact that he had have like literally six figures in lobbying from the music industry
Yep.
to make this stuff happen.
Sony, all sorts of other shit.
Yeah, and unfortunately, there is no update on that. That still is out in the open whether or not it's going to happen. But there's been a lot more DMCA news since the actual. Okay, actually, there hasn't really been that much DMCA news, but there's been Twitch news
Just like
in general.
Twitch.
Since this event, if we want to brag about karma, I now have the most upvoted, the 12th most upvoted post on r/livestream fail of all time regarding the usage of simp. 40,000 upvotes. I'm kind of a badass. I love to brag about my Reddit karma.
I just want to call out, I still have more karma than him, so.
Yeah, probably because the way that karma works, I got 40,000 upvotes on a post, but it only increased my total karma by like 3,000. Whatever.
Yeah, which is dumb.
It's dumb.
So basically what happened was Twitch made new guidelines to make words like simp, incel, and virgin bannable offenses.
So the thing is they didn't, though. That's what everyone's saying. That's how everyone's framing it, but everyone's in fucking sane.
Yeah, like it's something like the saying of those words on the Twitch platform has gone up like 900% or something like that.
So simp has doubled in its popularity since Twitch declared it as a banned word. So there are scenarios in which the community is wrong. There's scenarios where the Twitch employees are wrong. The biggest thing where the employees are wrong is that they specifically called out in their town hall that words like simp, virgin, and incel would be banned. And I think that is a terrible way to actually... The thing is they were kind of backed into a corner and they were asked, like, what about these words? And like, yep, those are probably banned. But if you actually look in their terms of service, which I actually read before this podcast because I'm a tryhard, the words are specifically said they're being banned in a hateful context. Like, if you are using banter and no one's reporting it, it's probably fine. I mean, the same... Yeah. You could probably say the same with, like, literal racial slurs. Like, oh, if no one's saying... Actually, you can't even say the N-word on Twitch anymore because they actually globally banned it, which is great, how it should be. Good. But, like, it's one of those situations where context apparently matters, and like if your community is like not saying it in a hateful way, Twitch says it should not matter. But at the same time, the main concern, and I think it's a valid concern, is that Twitch in many cases has not taken context into effect when they say take context into effect.
Well, the recently streamer Minx, she just got banned off of Twitter for saying virgin, incel, and simp. I'm pretty sure she was just joking around. That's
just her joking around, but it's also just her not knowing why, because they didn't actually give her a reason why. And considering they say that the new terms of service, which is banning hateful conduct based on sexual orientation or sexual preferences, which is why simp, incel, and virgin are being banned, because like they're hatefully, like, honestly, if you call someone an incel, you're probably not saying it like in a nice way.
No, you're probably being quite you're probably being pretty mean. But
you're being mean, but you're probably like, it's one of those things where you can't really even take it seriously. Like
no,
someone's calling you a fucking incel. It's like, oh, this guy on the internet. Like, I'm not gonna cry.
It does depend where you are. I've been in some Facebook groups where people say some pretty misogynistic shit where you're just like, yeah, you're probably an incel.
Yeah, like they were apparently banned for that, and this is gonna go into law on the 22nd. So people are saying like, oh, hey, like, why were they banned when this should go into effect on the 22nd?
Well,
we don't actually know.
It's like, Twitch is, we've said it a million times, it's just like their justifications for banning. Like, she got a 7-day ban, and then did you hear about that one girl who literally like put her ass up to her camera with like hundreds of people watching, tore off her underwear and like spread open her pussy lips, like, and she only got a 3-day. Well, so I hate being the thing like, well, what about blah, 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 but it's like, because 9 times out of 10, it's like the person, it's like you can't compare it, but it's like, I think that's a little bit worse. I think that's, to me,
a little bit worse. Like, we both know what we're talking about here. Like, this is literal, like, blatant. It's straight up porn. Like, it's
like it wasn't like an accident. Like, she was like tore and ripped like lip, like, look at my insides. Like,
yeah,
and she
like,
got that.
It was blatant.
That should be a permaban. That should be a permaban.
Yeah. So what's the word I'm looking for? It was blatant
sexual content,
like, in a way that was like meant to like, it was not only like her breaking the terms of service, but like she used it to promote her like brand in a certain way.
Yeah.
Like, it was so unbelievably against everything Twitch stands for, the fact that she only got a 3-day ban was ridiculous. But like, I feel like us talking about her increasing what she was trying to do, like,
yeah, we're like the people watching us are not going to search it up.
Yeah, I want to just like talk about the fact that like, yeah, the new terms of service is kind of like weirdly specific, but like people praised Mixer for like actually having specific, like, remember when Twitch was super vague and what they banned, and like Mixer's like, you can't have
this, like your straps are certain, like a certain length or something like that.
Yeah,
like exact.
I feel like you have to get more and more specific if you really want a community that's like great. Like everyone's gonna like excuse it, but like Twitch is definitely a hateful place in many cases, and like it really should not be acceptable.
And since I come from video games and MMOs, a lot of the terms of service are intentionally vague because if it's not, people will do everything in power to work within the guidelines in a very bad way. So it's like you kind of got to keep it vague so people don't know exactly what they can and can't do to like skirt around like the bad things, I guess.
Yeah, and like I understand getting more and more specific, but like there's obviously going to be controversy, like especially like simp being used twice as much in the last week than it's ever been used before because simp apparently got banned. But really, if you're calling someone a simp, like that is generally used in a derogatory context. I understand where they're coming from because they're basically trying to ban any derogatory like no. To be honest, no one should be feeling uncomfortable on Twitch.
I think simp should be banned, personally. I think simp is like you're like, oh, this woman probably shouldn't be harassed 24/7. And so people are like, simp. It's like
the literal only case I could think of simp not being hateful. Okay, I shouldn't say hateful. Hateful is so charged, but simp being an insult. The only non-insulting case is like people talking about the simp ban. It's like, oh, I don't think simps should be banned. I think simps should be banned. Like, that's the only case where, like, simp is not being used as a derogatory term. So I understand where they're coming from. But, of course, a lot of people are going to be upset about it. Like,
I guess, like, you can't even say simp in, like, almost like a banterish sense. I feel like people don't use that in a banterish sense versus, like, virgin and incel. I feel like people do use kind of in more in banter. Like, a simp, I'm just so tired of that word. Everywhere I go, it's just, like... it's just the most misogynistic word I've ever heard
when
in
I'm trying to think of like
point.
simp, like I like if I was gonna use it in a bantering sense, I'd be like, oh, you really watch that girl streamer a lot. Like, what are you have a crush on her? It's like, no. It's like that's what I'm thinking. Like a normal conversation with friends, like having banter with friends. Like, I don't think like, oh, exactly. You fucking simp. Like maybe I could see myself saying that in a different
I guess
world.
I tend to sit in a bunch of like shit posting circles, like on whether it's Twitter or Facebook and stuff like that. And it's like anytime anyone says like anything about a woman like in a positive light, it's like, oh, simp.
Yeah, that's really annoying. I mean, like the weird thing though, like, have you did you see like the very hyper specific guidelines, like them saying that like if you are suggesting partners send nudes to Twitch to like get relaxed punishment, you're gonna get banned?
No, I didn't see.
No,
that.
like they actually specifically said like, oh, suggesting that partners like send nudes to like Twitch staff to get unbanned, that's a ban. And like that specific thing is mixed in with like the simp ban and the other quote unquote word bans, even though they're not actually word bans. I don't really hear
people talk about that.
So the thing is, there was a very specific incident where a member of Twitch, and I'll mention them, like, because I have no relation to them, and I'm sorry if you're listening right now and you no longer want to listen to our podcast because of us calling you out. But Hassan, the previous partner manager on Twitch, was recently fired for sexual misconduct. And I'm not going to say that they specifically did this, but there was a meme basically for 3 or 4 years that, oh, you got unbanned early when a male streamer was like banned for the same thing for multiple months. You
by
probably
sending him nudes.
Yeah,
or
you
something.
probably sent nudes to Hassan. And while that is a little bit unfair without context, Hassan, the partner manager, was following like literally 75% what you would consider a e-girl, a streamer with scantily clad clothing.
And he would always speak. And there were like chat logs and stuff like that was all leaked of him, like, you know, flirting with them, saying like, oh, I can do stuff for you, you know, but you know, that kind of stuff. It's less about him directly asking for him. It's him kind of using his power to influence. I feel like it is definitely like a power imbalance.
Yeah, so basically Twitch made themselves be taken less seriously due to the fact that like they included this hyper specific reason which only reminds people of a literal person ousted for sexual harassment from the Twitch organization. Like I feel like that only works to make their cause less serious. Like I personally love Twitch becoming a safer place for like I want to watch video games. I don't want to be like fucking harassed. Like I've been in situations where people are like just like you fucking suck, you fucking like I don't want to say like I feel like it's very easy to find toxicity on Twitch, and I feel like while some people love that scenario, or some people love omega-lolling at my life, I don't want that.
Well, you see it every single day, like on Twitter, if someone's like, you don't have to remind me that my reviews are lower than normal type shit. Like, could you imagine, like, you're, like, streaming and someone's like, oh, your viewers are lower than normal. Like, why? Like, that's, like, toxic as fuck. Like,
I streamed for 5 years. I've gotten that many times. Like, thanks, man.
That's, like...
Why am I even streaming?
So or, like, to me, like, people that are like, oh, you don't look so good. You should stop your stream. Like, oh, you don't look great. Like, oh, you should do what you... Like, don't... Like, if you were gonna do something, you would do it. You know what I mean? Like...
Yeah, I mean, like, I had a decently difficult time, like it took me 5 years to really get, like, a relatively large following that, like, I was able to, like, consistently get messages in chat for a while. But, like, I could only feel for people who are, like, women or, like minorities in any way. Like, it is hard. I am dating someone who streams on Twitch, and I've seen some of the messages they get. Like, no one's talking about, like, fucking my feet. Like,
yeah, like it's hard out there.
It is hard out there, especially like that man's hard thinking about those feet.
I'm hard thinking about those. Wait, no, don't cut that out. Cut that out. Cut that out.
Hey guys, hope you enjoyed the episode. If you liked it a lot, make sure to rate us 5 stars on iTunes and subscribe on whatever podcast app you use. Here's Dana with a ditty.
Ditty, ditty, ditty. Look at my titty. Give us 5 stars so we can go fars.
That and more if you continue to support. If I was to like start a new podcast, it would just like be the sounds of shoving my phone up my ass podcast, and that's all it would be. I would record I would record on my phone in the camera app, shoving my phone up the asshole, and like the sounds.
Like we're like I'm watching DVD, and you're like, yo, I want to do the shoving fucking my fist up my ass podcast. Like, what the fuck?
No, phone, not fist.
What? Okay. I want to put bananas like
that would
excrement.
Be so much better than this podcast, because like
I want to put rat excrement into my like pee hole, like
because there would totally be infinite content, because like yeah, it sounds similar but it's never quite the same, and the episodes, pardon my pun, they're digestible. They're only a couple minutes at a time.
You're just making porn at this point.
No, because it's only the audio.
Who's the market for this? like fucking like ass freaks, like who want to listen to something in the car but can't watch it.
That's so disturbing on so many levels. Like, someone's in the car just listening to like insertion sounds. Someone's that far gone.